Stage 2 of our 3-stage season is almost over, but that doesn't mean that there aren't loads of great games to talk about. So let's get into it and talk about my favourite games from week 4. Smash the like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more content, and without further ado, let's just get straight into it. Kicking off with the BR6, in one of the biggest upsets of the season, we saw underdog Santos narrowly close out Liquid for a win in an impressive 8-7 performance. 16, 17 and 14 kills from 3 Santos players against the great gunners of Liquid on a fragging map like Coastline was enough, and I think it was a good call from Santos to go to Coastline, as they are, just like every team in the BR6, capable of hitting their shots. So instead of going to a strategic map like Clubhouse and trying to out-strategize Liquid, who have been playing as a 5-man roster for a few years now, they played into the unpredictability of Coastline, and it worked, hitting their shots and winning 8-7. And we headed back to Coastline for our matchup of the day as we saw Team 1 dispatch FaZe 7-3. Team 1 did a good job on attack at making room for executes, whether it be picking them off by holding angles and crosses, or using utility to force them out of corners on and off site, allowing Lagonis to get in and plant. And he did a good job at getting the diffuser down in a safe spot to not be shot from above or below. After a 5-1 half for Team 1, FaZe looked off the pace, but managed to reset and bounce back with a few rounds, including a nice 1v2 clutch from the clutch monster Souls. But that was all they would get though, as a retake from Team 1 stopped FaZe's momentum in its tracks, forcing match point and then closing the final round down with KDS collecting a double on the flank with a 12 kill performance and winning the game 7-3. On day 2, Team 1 were now up to face MIBR, and Philippox was back once again with his controller for MIBR, and the question for me was, what's more valuable, having Philippox with the rest of his team to allow them to all work on the same wavelength with 5 players of equal skill, or having Bodega as the 5th man on mouse and keyboard and being able to fight back against the talented gunners of Team 1? And I think the answer was really that neither is ideal, as MIBR did have a good start on defense, picking up 3 rounds, and after the half, I think considering the circumstances, defense was the favourable starting side for them, as they could just run the clock down and hold angles. But moving on to the attacking half, they had to find the fragging power to take map control and then kill the anchors on site to execute, and this was too much to ask for them, as KDS ran around picking up kill after kill, ending with 17 kills and eventually closing out the game 7-4 for Team 1. We had a great game between Liquid and FURIA in a maxed overtime showdown where Liquid just about won 8-7. We were overdue a vintage Nesk performance, and today was the day where he dropped a 17-8 performance, ending him with over 2.0 KD. Nesk is one of those super talented players that, due to his thousands of hours playing at the highest level, he knows what to expect from the opposition and where to best position himself for kills, even in a highly volatile and dynamic region like Brazil. And this showed as he collected multi-kills, clutches and aces all throughout the game, along with Sexy Cake as always having great objective play. And when these two are at full force, they're such a great 1-2 punch and tend to lead Liquid to a really well-rounded performance. Fantasy himself kept pace with Liquid for his team, but a smart delay game from Paulu on the Mozzie in the final round left FURIA with minimal time and only 1 pick on the roamers in the last 30 seconds, and were forced to take a 5v4 fight in the final execute, with Liquid still holding smoke canisters, C4s and power positions, denying FURIA's plant attempt and winning it 8-7. GG's to both teams though, and a game like this once again reminds me of how far FURIA have come in the last 12 months, being able to keep pace with Liquid even when Nesk is at full force. Heading over to North America, and Soniqs look for revenge after their 2-7 loss to Mirage in Stage 1, playing them once again, this time on Chalet, and they did, winning 7-4. Rixa kicked off the game with a 4K and continued to run riot with Jackal throughout their attack. I really like the diversity of Soniqs on their Chalet attacks. Similar to the previous week, they have a good combination of slow methodical executes and fast rushes depending on the opposition's site and how they're set up to hold it, collecting a good 4-2 attacking half. But Mirage rebounded as they were smart at not overextending as they did in the first half, and instead set up good crossfires similar to how they did in the TSM game, often holding deeper angles to use the attacking assault rifles in their favour. But Rexon started to heat up with multi-kills, and with Grixa and Yeti already fragging out, they just overwhelmed Mirage, who only had 1 player being positive in KDA, which was loading their flank watch. 2 back-to-back 4Ks from Rexon on the Frost put him on 18 kills as he shut down the game for Soniqs 7-4 against Mirage. 2 underperforming teams, OXG and Disrupt, faced up against each other, as Disrupt surprised many, beating OXG 8-7 in overtime. A retro 1v2 clutch set the tempo of this game, and you could see from the player cams that Iconic was fired up as usual. Overall though, OXG were looking more in control and having a more well-rounded first half, especially from Kino with great objective play on hard breach and impressively planting all 6 rounds of their 3-3 first half, not having to rely on hero players as much as DG were. DG started to tidy up their rounds though, and did well on attack to roam clear and clearing the offsite holds, running up the score to 5-3, but 2 well-adjusted rounds helped OXG bring the score even. Disrupt saw they needed to change something, and a nice Ying rush on the top floor gave them a flawless round and a match point at 6-5. In the next round, OXG burnt the time well, once again collecting a round and forcing OT, and the trend continued as we required all 15 rounds of the game. But a big flawless round and a triple from the undeniable MVP of this match, Iconic, secured them those 2 points in an 8-7 banger of a game, where nearly all players broke double digits, something we don't see very often. GG's to both teams for a great showing here. Over to Europe, and we saw our CIS Russian matchup as Empire took on Virtus.pro. Empire started strong on their roam clear, but VP adjusted in their last few defenses, working better to support each other on the roam and use stuff like Mozzie and Mute to delay Empire's push, and if they needed to, just fall back to site with man advantage and wait for Empire to walk into their crosshairs, as the half ended at 3 apiece for both teams. Moving on to their defense though, Empire played really well behind utility as both teams seemed to struggle on managing the clock on attack, so Empire exploited this and just had too many layers of utility for VP to successfully clear in time, collecting 4 rounds and just about closing the game out 7-5. Dark Horses of Europe, Vitality, took on G2 in another max overtime match where G2 closed them out 8-7. Vitality showed off their good comms in this game, often punishing G2 players who had just collected a kill from an off angle and instantly trading them out, and they did a good job later on in the half at keeping all players alive for the final execute, which always benefits a well coordinated team like Vitality. But Citizen was showing why he's one of the top rated players in the league, playing an uncharacteristic aggressive lurking smoke on defense, and with a Yana ban, his second in line Sophia on attack, leading the charge and helping G2 find 2 attacking rounds. Vitality called a timeout though and adjusted well, making sure not to fall victim to G2's droning for Citizen, and mostly playing slightly further back, burning time well and finding 3 rounds of their own, and now at 5-6 down, G2 pulled off a clinical flawless round onto bar, forcing overtime, and it was now anyone's game, but 20 kills from Citizen dragged G2 over the line at max overtime as the entries once again spiraled to a flawless round and ultimately a 8-7 win for G2, keeping them in strong contention for the August Mexico Major. So those were my favourite games from week 4. This was a much shorter video, as in the last week there's going to be a lot more play days, as next week, or the week we're in now, is the final week of games. So yeah, look out for that, as that will be back to the normal size of videos where we have 2 play days worth for each region. But yeah, this week 4 was sort of just like a shorter adjoining week where we just, in the format I've been doing it at least, had less matches to talk about, as yeah, I could either do 2 play days for this week and then only have 1 for the next one, or do 1 for this and vice versa. So yeah, as usual, subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.